p.m. And Tim Wiles will lead all y'all in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tim.
Including dogs.
All right. So next on the agenda is public input. Luann, is there any?
Hi, everyone. We have not received any public input to this point.
Excellent. So that brings us to why we are here, selecting the general contractor and subs to award the construction project. So I believe there are 5 resolutions, Tim?
Correct. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Megan or Larry can correct me, but I think they were going to give us a brief intro before we get to any resolutions, if that...
Okay.
Was that you, Megan?
Yes, it's Larry here, but I don't know if Megan is muted or what, but we do have a little intro for you that we can, if I can share the screen. Is that okay? Okay, then we'll run you through. Okay. Can you all see the screen?
How do we get that off the screen? It messes up my whole computer. After somebody puts something on the screen like this.
Barry, he's showing us the presentation. He's sharing his screen with us so we can all watch the presentation.
Messes my computer.
Are we all set to go?
Sure.
I'm upset. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're back. Well, again, we were here a couple weeks ago discussing the bid opening. We did have a public bid opening for the library project, for your project, on September 22nd. The last 2 days, Turner and Butler Rowland Mays have been interviewing and descoping contractors, and we've the five contracts that were out on the street to bid that we interviewed were general construction. Now, each of these are separate prime contractors. So we have general construction, plumbing, construction, fire protection, mechanical, and electrical. There were also 5 add alternates in the bid package for metal frame skylight, radiant slab. Those are both in the addition. Sprinkler service room, that's an addition for your sprinkler service, so you don't take up space in one of your current meeting rooms. There's some exterior reading plazas in the back of the library that will allow for some decorative concrete areas for some additional reading space. And then a fire alarm panel, a new fire alarm panel to upgrade your older antiquated fire alarm panel. I'll just let you know that it was a very successful bid. We received 35 bids, and I'll just start with the general construction. You can see there was 7 bidders for the general construction package, all very close, with Betty and Kring being the low bidder. For the plumbing contract, there were sorry about that. plumbing contract bids. There were six bidders interested in the project, with the DeJezer Group being the low bidder. Fire protection, we received 4 bids, with Davis Omer being the low sprinkler bidder. For the mechanical, we received 11 bids, with Campito Plumbing and Heating being the low bidder there. Electrical, we received 6 bids, with Flex Electric as the low bidder. So in summary, bids are within budget. There's a summary of the bidders, of the apparent low bidders, including the 5 add alternates, carrying a construction contingency. There's some other direct expenditures, allowances, yet to be bought on state contract by the library direct, some millwork, furniture, technology, etc. And then with the project soft cost, total funds allocated to date, $7.9 million. So we are below the current budget. Very favorable bids. It's just a lot of uncertainty in the market. That's been the most participation I've seen in a bid opening in years. So the competition was very tight, which is good for you. It's good to be a buyer right now. And we're looking forward to getting this project kicked off. Are there any questions?
Larry, I do have a question. Richard Rubin, not knowing anything about this. We now have an assortment of people that are going to be doing different work and different aspects of the project. Does it matter whether this combination of people have worked together before on a project, or do we just assume that everything will work together regardless of who the individuals chosen are?
Well, the way this works, it's New York State WICS law. So they are individual primes. That's why Turner's on board to coordinate the different prime contractors. I've worked with all of these contractors, some of them together on different projects, but all at different times. This is how every public project is bid and awarded, just due to New York State WICS law over $500,000.
So it's in your purview to coordinate and make sure that everybody's playing well together.
Yes.
Thank
And we
you.
have a process for that, yes.
Larry, I have a question.
Sure.
As you're presenting the winners of the various mechanical and et cetera, did those numbers include our 5 actuals, or supposed to be bid out separately? I noticed that they were bidding on those contingencies as well.
In summary, they include the 5 alternates. On the summary page, these numbers include the 5 alternates. I can go back and show you a breakdown of what each one of those alternates amount to.
Yeah, do you have that?
I do.
So right now, we can afford all 5 alternates.
Yes, you can.
But if we choose not to do them, we can choose not to do them as well.
You have that right, correct. Megan, I have to pull up another sheet, but if you recall the alternates off the top of your head.
Which alternate which? I mean,
Yes.
alternate 1 is the skylights. Alternate 2 is the radiant slab in the activity room. Alternate 3 is the sprinkler room. Alternate 4 is the reading classes. And alternate 5 is the upgrades to the fire alarm infrastructure system.
Who these contractors put on each of those items and who went out on them?
I'm sorry, I'm having a tough time hearing.
I said, do you have a list of the contractors that put on each of these alternates and who actually won the bid?
It would really help if anyone not speaking could mute.
I have to pull up my bid summary. If I can stop sharing for a moment and then I can grab that information.
Yeah, can we share, Larry? I think you can just stop sharing. Yep. While Larry is pulling this up, I'm going to take a minute. I just want to thank our 3 trustees who were able to attend the opening and reading of the bids, Barry, Marcia, Marcia, and Richard. You know, I know that not everyone had an available work schedule, but I want to thank those trustees for going and representing the board and really making sure that we all, you know, at least that there were board members who were there who were able to get all of the information of all the bids. So thank you guys. We really appreciate it.
Megan, while we're waiting, if I could ask you a question. There were some bidders who bid $0, essentially no cost for some of the additional projects. The 5 additional projects will automatically go to the low bidder on that scope of the work. How do we decide who gets the work on the 5 additional projects?
The alternate values are a component of each contractor's bid. So if we accept, for instance, on the general construction contract, if we accept the low bid from Betty Kring, then we're accepting those alternates from them.
Even
So
though-
it's not a variable to choose between each contractor for each alternate. We
So
can
even though-
choose.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, even though Betty and Kring may be a little bit higher on one of the alternates, their overall bid is the lowest, so they would then be selected, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? I
have
have
a question
one
too.
question. Some of the bidding, there was significant, really large differences between the low bidder and the rest of the field, basically. Does that raise any questions or concerns that they may not be able to actually do it at the price they quoted, or how does that work?
Well, I wanted to address that in 2 aspects. First is that right now, very good bid environment. So there's a number of companies that are eager to put their workforces into action. So they're bidding things more aggressively than others. I know also it's the size of the company that sometimes depends or gives some variation to bids. I know, for instance, there was one mechanical contractor that they were submitting one of their first public bid. So I think they might have been very conservative in their numbers rather than very competitive, like some other companies that are more used to this, more used to the public bid environment, and really eager to do the work. Larry and his team have done the thorough, scoping and budgeting back when we did the DD estimate, and then they've updated their numbers. So everything is within their ranges and they're comfortable with the numbers. And we've also now had 2 conversations with each of the low bidders. So on Tuesday afternoon, Larry had called all the apparent low bidders, asked them to look through all their documentation, look through their numbers, make sure that they were comfortable. And then the Turner team and I interviewed the 5 contractors in more detail today and actually went through a multi-page spreadsheet of questions and answers and actually had the contractors confirm and in writing that
Okay.
are comfortable with all their numbers, all the scoping things. We're pretty comfortable with the way the numbers fallen. Obviously, the general construction numbers are so close are what we love to see, but this has happened repeatedly. I hope that
Okay,
answers.
sounds like you and Larry and the team did a very thorough job. Thank you.
I've got a quick question, if you don't mind. I don't know who it's for, Larry or Megan, but I noticed that two of the, is it DeGearsey? I know DeGearsey was the low bidder on two of the different contracts. I don't know if there's any room for negotiation since we are going to award both of them, since they're a low bidder, because they're coming in doing two parts of the contract, we can get a cheaper bid.
So I'll address a couple of your questions. Sorry it took me so long. I had to log into another computer because this one works better when I'm streaming. Either way, so the Jezzer is the low on the plumber. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the Jezzer's low on the plumbing. They also bid the mechanical, the HVAC, heating and ventilation. They were not low on that, the heating contract. So at this point, we cannot, just because of public bidding laws, negotiate with them to get them to have both. Ideally, I mean, although it would be ideal, we just can't do that. And if you see their base bid numbers in this left column, as you go across for each of the 5 alternates, the alternates would stipulate who would get the bid. So their alternate numbers can vary a little bit, just as well as their bids can. However, whatever the ultimate number becomes with all selected alternates, that makes them the low bidder. And this,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, no, I thought I saw DeGearsey as the low bidder on two of the contracts. I missaw it, so I
No,
apologize.
that's fine. They did bid the mechanical, and we get them a lot on a lot of projects where they're the plumber, they're the heating guy, and sometimes they are both, which it makes it an easier coordination when you have the same company doing two scopes of work. And sometimes it's not really that much of a better economies of scale for them, because it's typically two different tradespeople leading both those efforts as far as plumbing and heating. But sometimes when we're bidding private work, we can do a combo bid like that and get a better, a best number on a combo for both trades, both disciplines. Does that answer your question? Can you hear me?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And then I'll just run you. So for instance, the GC, we had to run this in every combination, but no matter if you pick one or all the alternates, it doesn't matter. It makes Betty and Kring the low bidder. Okay. The DeJezer Group for plumbing, there were no add alternates that affected their contract, so their number stays the same. Davis Omer, the sprinkler contractor, there were 2 add alternates that minimally affected them, but they've elected to we'll do those 2 add alternates at 0 cost. That's how bad they want the work. Campedo, they had 3 alternates that affected their scope. The first one for the metal frame skylight, they elected to put a $0 cost, and we've interviewed them and discussed it, that it's such a minimal impact that they don't want any additional money if that alternate is selected. And then you get the combo over to the right. Either way you go, with all or none of the alternates, the first 4 contracts will still be the low contractor. With the electrical contract, there's only one thing that could change who your contractor is. And this doesn't typically happen like this. If you do not do the fire alarm panel, upgrade your fire alarm panel, the low contractor becomes Upstate Electrical. Is everybody following what I'm?
Yes.
And like,
I believe, so what you're saying on that is that the low bid baseline, no alternates for the electrical was lower with Upstate. But if you combine all the alternates, the Flex Electric is the lower bid.
Correct.
and
And it's
Larry,
specific to the fire panel.
Yeah, alternate 5 is the only one that only affects the electrician. You take
Okay.
that one away and it makes Upstate the low bidder. Yes.
Okay.
and Larry, one question. So all the bids, even the alternates with Flex Electric, would fall under the budget that we need to fall under, correct?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Because
You can
there's
see
no
the-
reason to cut out the fire alarm system work just to save money at this particular point, since we are still under budget.
I would not recommend it. If you can upgrade your fire alarm panel, it's a good time to do it. I'm working in a ton of schools where their panels are outdated, antiquated, and they can't get parts for them. That's probably one reason why you were looking to upgrade that panel while you're making fire alarm modifications already. But yes, they're affordable. I will let you folks know that there was a bid bond. So all these contractors are very qualified. We work with them all. There is a bid bond and there's a payment and performance bond required on this public work. So if they are start to fail to the point where we need to bring in their bonding company, it's bonded. So the bonding company would step in and finish any work for them. I haven't had to call in a bonding company in about 10 years. And it wasn't a very reputable company in the beginning. Does that answer your question relative to the these contractors are they're actually very big contractors, and I'm honestly surprised that some of them that are successful on a project this size to beat out some of the smaller guys. So that just tells you how hungry and aggressive they are to keep people working in this uncertain time. Any other questions?
Marcia has a question.
Sure.
Still muted, Marcia. Still muted.
How do I?
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
I'm sorry. I'm, technically not very proficient, but I enjoyed being there at the bid process. I thought it was very interesting, and also watching people's faces as they left the room. So I have not seen the bids, and can you just and thanks for talking about the performance bond and insurance, and because that was one of my questions. But is the low bid the most important criteria you looked at?
No, you have to be in New York State. No, we have a whole interview de-scoping process that we go through.
Okay.
But based on New York State law, you have to, in public bidding, select the low bidder that
Lowest bid,
qualifies. Yes.
But-
Like I can show you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Larry, go ahead.
Like here is a summary of the GC bids. I mean, they all were looking at the same thing. That is very, very tight.
Yep. Could you just, and I'm not asking you to go through the whole RFP that went out to the individual bidders, but could you just go over the salient features of the bid that had to be met? What I'm interested in primarily is they have to complete the work on time. If not, are there any penalties? Are there any perceived overrides for things that may come up that we've agreed to? Any issue in the bidding RFP regarding what happens if there's a problem with COVID in terms of everything being shut down? You know, whose responsibilities that fall on us or the contractor? Are there any subcontractors to the contractor? And do we have a requirement of minimum number of workers for any of the contractors? And also, do these workers have to be union workers? So these are just things that came to mind. Since we haven't seen the bid, if you could just spend a few minutes in telling us what the features of the bid were, I'd have a better understanding as to what people were looking at when they put their bid in.
Okay. I'm trying to remember the first two. I did. So, and Megan, help me out here. The bidding, they had to follow New York State guidelines.
Right.
And that's qualify and be able to provide a bid bond as well as a performance and payment bond. That's ensuring that they can do the work and that they'll pay their subcontractors. I might jump around a little bit. Each one of these prime contractors, yes, do have subcontractors and vendors that also would work under them.
Do we have access to the subcontractor's insurance, or are we relying on the main contractor who goes over?
We will have insurance certificate. So the plan is to have a kickoff meeting next Wednesday to get contracts, bonds, and insurances going. We start out with insurances from the main 5, but any subcontractor that they employ that comes on site has to also provide proof of insurance via an insurance certificate. So we keep track of.
Who are they responsible to, us or the contractor? My
Well, they're
point is,
responsible.
if they screw up, if the subs screw up, we look to the contractor who won the bid on that particular task, or do we have access directly to the subcontractor?
It's mainly to the prime contractor, but there is a path to the subcontractor. But so to answer your question, it's the main contractor's main liability.
Okay.
Where their insurance would be the first, and then they would go after their subcontractors. The prime contractor's contract would be with the library. The subcontractors would be with each individual contractor.
So we don't have a direct cut through to the subs. Okay, thank you.
No. Union, Betty and Cream, they're union. The Jezzers union. It's not a requirement. It's a requirement to pay prevailing wage rates.
Right.
Campito is union and Flex is union. I'll be honest, I'm not sure about Davis Ulmer.
Okay.
I can look that up.
No,
Davis Ulmer is union.
So Pete Deloy is another Turner project executive that's on the line that's been helping descope and Davis Ulmer. So this will tell you, this is even more of an amazing feat that all union contractors have beat out non-union contractors to have a better number.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yes.
So are there any requirements to finish on time? If not, any penalties attached to that?
Well, there are no liquidated damages
Okay.
in the contracts,
Okay.
but we will be monitoring the schedule to keep things on track.
Okay.
You do mention COVID. So currently on all the projects we're working on, we've had, the contractors are responsible to follow the CDC guidelines, and we're working with all of them, and they're all doing well with contact tracing, face cover up when they can't social distance. So they're responsible for all the CDC guidelines. If there's a COVID outbreak, and the library has to be shut down, or the state or the county shuts down again, we really can't hold the contractor liable for that and the schedule impact that may cause. There are right now supplies and materials are still tracking good. Lumber has been an issue, and casework. You have time before you need your first piece of casework on site. Not to say that if something happens in one of these factories or one of these places that there could be a delay on some material deliveries, but that we would have to work around.
Okay.
I will add to that, Larry, if you don't
Yes.
mind. I will add to that as well. This is Pete Deloya again from Turner. Throughout the whole pandemic, we have been fortunate in our industry that we have been considered essential. Construction has been considered essential throughout this process. So from the state's perspective and even from the federal government's perspective, up until this point, we have not had to shut down our projects due to CDC regulations or even state regulations. If there is an outbreak, as Larry had mentioned, and then the industry is shut down, again, that's where he was going back and stating that at that point, the blame for that could not be put on the contractors. But I continue to reiterate, we've been very fortunate, knock wood, that for the construction industry, we have not had to shut down any of our projects due to it, unless either our client requested that shutdown, or if it was in an area and maybe out of state, which of course doesn't affect us either, where there would have to be a shutdown.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate this. One last question. Larry, Turner is going to coordinate the work, and so I'm assuming that in some instances, the work will be done in seriatim, and in some instances, the contractors will be working concurrently in the building, and you're going to supervise all of that timing.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Are there other questions at this time?
Actually, go ahead, Barbara.
I'm still a little bit confused about these alternate bids. So the general contractor, was it Bella and Cringe? So they're going to do all the things, including the electrical panel and all that. I thought they each had their own little expertise. That's the part that I don't quite understand. Like, I can understand Flex Electric doing the fire panel, but would they do the metal frame skylight? It seems that that's not within their purview.
Yeah, Megan?
I'll tackle that one for Larry. So each contract, sometimes for these alternates, multiple contracts are involved with the alternate. So for instance, with the metal frame skylight, if that is accepted as an alternate, there's the construction component, which is
Megan, Larry, can you just mute, please? I think we're getting feedback from you.
Sorry. So for instance, with the skylight, there's not just the framing and the glazing and the exterior cladding and the interior wall surfaces, but there's also the additional light fixtures that need to go in that location, the sprinkler heads that need to go into the skylight framing, and then there's also mechanical ductwork that needs to have diffusers in that skylight. So each trade for a number of these alternates has a scope to it. But you're correct. The fire alarm system modifications or improvements, that is solely an electrical contract add alternate, which is why when you look at the spreadsheet that Larry has up, the other 4 contractors have 0 values in that column. It's only related to the fire or to the electrical contract there. Did that clarify for you?
So the general contractor then will do all the alternates, including like the landscaping for the exterior reading plazas?
Yes.
Now, the exterior reading plaza, that's our current reading area, right? In our general contract, we had the plaza in the front that's supposed to be with a cafe, right? So this was separate from that.
I apologize. These reading plazas are the ones at the front of the building at the entry. So what we planned for was one where the cafe was primarily going to be located during the referendum. and then one on the other side of the entry where the cafe has been relocated to. So we'll have 2 reading plazas that flank the main entry.
Oh, okay, so that was my confusion. I thought this was something different.
No, so we don't have any improvements planned for the rear reading plaza that currently exists right now.
Oh, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Okay, so Barbara, are you all set on the questions at the moment? Okay, for the record, Barbara's nodding yes. So Brian?
Thank you. Thanks, guys, for coming here. I'll just add a couple quick questions. So are we required by law to pick the low bidders? Is that what I heard? Okay. And you guys feel, it sounds like you did your due diligence on the low bidders. So you feel confident fully that they will go through with it? Like everything should go according to plan, more or less? Okay.
Yes.
And the only reason I ask is I wasn't here for the last time they built the building. Barbara was, but I guess there was a lot of problems with the contractor. So I guess I'm just kind of making sure I'm aware. And then I guess lastly, so when I'm looking for the add-ons, that's something we get to pick. So in looking at them, it looks like most of them are relatively affordable, with the biggest being about $100,000 for the skylight. So I guess is that something, maybe this is a question for Caitlin, is as a board, are we just approving all the add-ons? Are we going to talk about the add-ons? Or, it sounds like we're under budget, so it's not a big deal. Maybe here's a question. How much under budget are we with the add-ons?
So Tim, did you want to take this? At least how much under budget that we are at the moment. I will say the resolutions I have already written up include the alternates at this point. And those were written up by Turner and given over to us.
So I think that the amount can be determined if we can get Larry to put up his summary screen again. I did not calculate it when he had it up, but you can do that, right, Larry? You're muted.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So yes, at this point, the anticipated cost is just under 8 million. My understanding is with all the grants, we were looking at just over 9 million. 9,055,000. My understanding is you haven't secured all the grants yet, so that's one thing that. But at this point, it wouldn't matter because you're that much under budget. So let me, in rough numbers, you're looking about $1 million under budget. Overall project budget.
All right. Thank you guys. That was it. Appreciate it.
Yes.
And my understanding, Brian and Larry, is that it's that approximate $1 million with the 5 alternates going forward.
That's correct. That's including the alternates being awarded.
Okay. Thank you.
Barbara, yeah.
Just a quick clarification. What is the big advantage? Is it just aesthetic, or is there lighting advantage to that $100,000 skylight?
I think atmosphere. If you think about the current building the way it is, you've got that one spine that has the long skylight above it, and that's much more bright and open. And then where you have your stacks, it's a little bit darker, and you don't really see a lot of natural light. So what we were hoping to do was sort of replicate that nice open feeling that you have in the existing building for a portion of the addition, so that the collection space And the addition also has some light quality and some just higher ceiling so that it's just a little more dynamic than the typical stack space you have right now.
So it's a pretty large skylight then. It's not just
It is. It's similar to what you have in your existing building in terms of width, but it's shorter, obviously.
mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you.
Of course.
Now, what you also have the ability to do is, if some grants don't come through, that you're still very comfortable. If they do and you don't want to borrow as much, that's a possibility as well. I don't know if Tim, you want to touch on that any further?
Sure. So, we've begun the process of getting ready to borrow the money, but until the board votes on, the package that we're putting forward tonight, we don't know the exact costs that we need to cover. Paul Mays and also Neil Sanders, I've chatted with both of them. Like, as you may remember, especially if you're not one of our new board members, the district is actually taking the loan, not the library. And so as soon as we get the cash number to them, they can start. But there is a process by which you can hedge your bets a little bit. So the public approved a $9.05 million project, and they approved an $8.35 million bond. So instead of bonding for that entire amount of money, since we might not need $1 million of it, what you can do is do something called a BAN, bond anticipatory note, and that essentially opens up $8.35 million in capital to you, but you borrow it in chunks based on the cash flow analysis. So if indeed you do finish the project under budget, you just don't borrow the last chunk, which of course means that you have less to pay back later. So when we talked last time, we had sort of said, well, if we have money left over, what would we do with it? And I think my feeling anyway, and I'm not a board member, but my feeling was, well, you'd put it against what you owed rather than doing something else with it. But this bond anticipatory note process actually allows you to not borrow it if you don't need it. So I would imagine that's what Neil's going to recommend once we get our fiscal team together. I would say that, I'm sure, I don't want to say this the wrong way. This is a very serious matter, and I'm hoping that members of the board's building committee will attend that meeting, which we'll schedule quickly because we need the money quickly. So, I would like to see a lot of involvement with that process. It's, and I don't know, not having done this before, maybe we will need yet another special meeting once we've got the plan for the financing and before we sign on the dotted line. I don't know if Megan and Larry can speak to that, if that's typically a part of the process.
I think next board meeting will in terms of what the funding approach is or what the recommendations are, and we can review it at your October board meeting.
So at the October 15th board meeting, we'd be able to look for the board authority to actually go ahead and borrow the money. So my understanding here is that to award the contracts, we need to get to a voting stage tonight, but to pay for it, we don't need to pay anybody for at least a month. Plus we do have some cash on hand. So we're okay over the very short term, but obviously we need to get moving on the financing.
If can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. On the bond anticipatory note, does the interest rate vary with the amount borrowed? Do you know?
We'll have to get that information from the bond council because sometimes it varies on market conditions.
That might be an important consideration.
Typically what we see is that the school district's bond council will run a number of different options for you folks to decide what the best course of action is.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
So is it my understanding that we have to decide about these alternates tonight when we approve these contracts?
Yes,
Yeah.
a majority of them, their work starts at the very beginning of the project. So we were looking for you to make the decisions tonight on all of the ad alternates.
Okay. So I guess, board, yes, Tim.
Could I just add that my understanding, we'll see if Megan and Larry confirm, is that the resolutions that we have for you were written today by Patrick Fitzgerald, our construction lawyer with Gervin and Ferlazzo. And they are, I believe, based on the assumption that you will accept all 5 of the alternates. So if that doesn't turn out to be the case, then we may need to rewrite them, which I am not sure if that would require a separate meeting then. Megan, Larry, do you know about that?
I believe if you could modify them, like if you're choosing not to take any of the alternates, then you could just read the beginning part and then re-clarify for the total contract amount of. So I think you could maneuver it if you needed to, or you can always wait and have your attorney rewrite them for you. It's whatever you're most comfortable with.
Well, to move things along, this is Richard Rubin. I see no reason why we shouldn't move forward with the alternate items, being that they were desirable and they fit in with the budget. So I would like to move that we accept the bids as recommended by Turner for each of the 5 areas of construction for the library project.
Hi, Richard. Can we, so I have, each of them are resolved individually.
Oh, okay.
But at this point, I think you're right. We need discussion on the alternates. So, if perhaps you wanted to make your motion such that the board will approve all the alternates.
So you'd like
can,
you would like a motion to approve the alternates and then 5 motions, 1 for each of the contractors, correct, Kate?
That seems to work, and if necessary, we could break it down to a board vote on if there's some discrepancy between the board, then maybe we vote on the alternates individually.
Okay, well, just starting the discussion, let me remove the motion I made previously, and the motion on the floor now is that we approve the 5 alternate projects as presented and to the contract low bidder as advised by Turner.
Second.
Second by Barbara. All right, I'm going to roll call if no one minds. But first, is there discussion? Really? None, guys? Usually chatty. I'm not mad. So, we will roll call. And I'm just going to go again in the order that I see you appear. Richard?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Noreen?
Aye.
Yes. Ryan Best?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And Marcia?
Yes.
And Caitlin abstain. So 9 in favor, 1 abstention. The motion passes. So I believe that brings us to our resolutions. And I have these in the order that they were presented to us. I will read them, and we'll, again, roll call vote in that same order, one resolution at a time.
Can we
So-
handle the resolutions as a group
Um,
rather than 5 separate?
No, this is the way the
Okay.
attorney has them written.
Not a problem. Not
And
a
it's
problem.
also the attorney's advice that it's the right way to do it.
Not a problem at all.
So while I'd love to agree with you, the
Yep.
attorney
No, we
has
need
said
to do it.
otherwise.
We need to do it right.
So I will try and read this as quickly but clearly as I can for you all.
Thank you.
So the first resolution, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Guilderland Public Library hereby awards the general construction prime contract number 1 for the library renewal project to Bet and Crind LLC in the base amount of $2,824,000, along with alternate number 1 metal frame skylight over the children's room in the amount of $92,000. Alternate number 2 radiant heat floor slab in the activity room in the amount of $4,000. Alternate number 3 sprinkler room in the amount of $55,000, and alternate number 4 reading plazas adjacent to the main entry in the amount of $15,000 for a total contract award of $2,990,000, subject to the execution of a contract by Bet and Crind LLC in the form approved by the library director. Be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes the library's board president and/or the director to execute the approved contract with Bet and Crind LLC and such other documents as are necessary to commence the work under the contract on the project.
So moved.
Motion by Barbara. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Richard is what I heard. So on that resolution, Richard.
Question. Can we have a
Yes.
quick discussion first? I just have
Sure.
a question. Where is this company located?
Bet and Crind are located, it's off of Route 9. What's that in the circle? Pete, help me out. What's the name of the circle that they're located in? They actually own
Winter Circle.
Latham, sir.
Entry Hill Plaza in Latham.
Century Hill Plaza.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
They're local.
they developed, built,
Yeah,
and
that's fine. I just was wondering if they were local, and they are. Thank you.
Yes.
All 5 of the low bidders, all 5 of the proposed contractors are all local to the Capital District. They're Schenectady, Albany,
Okay.
Latham, and the general area.
Great, thank you. Save me asking a question each one.
All right. So, again, for this motion on the floor for the general contractor, we're all ready to move to a vote. Is there any further questions? I see none. So, Richard,
Aye. Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Barry,
In favor?
Kathy,
Yes.
Marcia,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Noreen,
Aye.
Brian Best,
Yes.
Jason Wright,
Yes.
and Caitlin Downey abstains. So, with 9 in favor and 1 abstention, the resolution passes 7:02 p.m. Moving on to plumbing. The resolution that I will read is, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Guilderland Public Library hereby award the plumbing prime contract number 2 for the library renewal project to DeGarcy Mechanical, Inc. in the amount of $231,900, subject to the execution of a contract by DeGarcy Mechanical, Inc. in a form approved by the library director. Be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes the library's board president and/or the director to execute the approved contract with DeGarcy Mechanical, Inc. and such other documents as are necessary to commence the work under the contract on the project. Is there someone who'd like to move this motion?
So moved.
Barry? Second?
I'll second.
Second by Mark. Is there discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Richard?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Noreen?
Aye.
Brian Best?
Yes.
Jason Wright?
Yes.
And Marcia?
Yes.
And Caitlin Downey, yes. So unanimous with 10 in favor at 7:04, the motion passes. And so we'll move on to fire protection. If y'all, I know it is a bit tedious to put your mics on and off as we go through this process, but it's especially important as I'm reading the resolutions for the public to be on mute. So thank you very much. So number 3 for fire protection. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Guilderland Public Library hereby awards the fire protection prime contract number 3 for the library renewal project to Davis Ulmer Sprinkler Company, Inc. in the base amount of $135,920, along with alternate number 1 metal frame skylight over the children's room in the amount of $0, and alternate number 2 radiant heat floor slab in the activity room in the amount of $0 for a total contract amount of $135,920, subject to the execution of a contract by Davis Ulmer Sprinkler Company, Inc. in a form approved by the library's director. Be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes the library's board president and/or the director to execute the approved contract with Davis Ulmer Sprinkler Company, Inc. and such other documents as are necessary to commence the work under the contract on the project. Is there someone who'd like to move this? Barbara? Yes, moved by Barbara, second?
I'll second.
Second by Mark. Is there discussion? Seeing none, we'll go into a vote. Richard? Richard?
It's muted. Just trying to go back and forth. Yes.
Thank you. Barbara? For the record, Barbara's saying yes. Barry? Barry?
Yes. Hello?
Yes, yes, I
Can you hear
can.
me?
Good, yep. We got the yes from Barry. Kathy?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Noreen?
Aye.
Brian?
Yeah, yes.
Jason?
Abstain.
Abstention by Jason. Marcia?
Yes.
And Caitlin Downey, yes. So with 9 in favor and 1 abstention, the motion passes at 7:07 p.m. Moving on to mechanical. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Guilderland Public Library hereby awards the mechanical prime contract number 4 for the library renewal project to Campito Plumbing and Heating, Inc. in the base amount of $595,380, along with alternate number 1 metal frame skylight over the children's room in the amount of $0. Alternate number 2 radiant heat floor slab in the activity room in the amount of $8,370, and alternate number 3 sprinkler room in the amount of $1,395 for a total contract award of $645,145,000, subject to the execution of a contract by Campito Plumbing and Heating, Inc. in a form approved by the library's director. Be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes the library's board president and/or the director to execute the approved contract with Campito Plumbing and Heating, Inc. and such other documents are necessary to commence the work under the contract on the project. Is there someone who'd like to make the motion?
Mark can make a motion.
Mark makes the motion. Is there a second? Second by Marcia. Is there discussion? Move to a vote. Richard,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Noreen,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Marcia,
Yes.
and Caitlin Downey, yes. So unanimous with 10 in favor at 7:09, the motion passes. One more to go. Again, I just asked you to mute specifically for the reading of the resolutions. All right. Be it resolved that Richard, please mute.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I'm going there.
All right. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Guilderland Public Library hereby awards the electrical prime contract, contract number 5, for the library renewal project to Flex Electric LLC in the base amount of $498,000, along with alternate number 1, metal frame skylight over the children's room in the amount of $20,000. Alternate number 2, radiant heat floor slab in the activity room in the amount of $985. Alternate number 3, sprinkler room in the amount of $5,500. And alternate number 5, additional fire alarm system work in the amount of $16,500 for a total contract award of $540,985, subject to the execution of a contract by Flex Electric LLC in a form approved by the library's director. Be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes the library's board president and/or the director to execute the approved contract with Flex Electric LLC and such other documents as are necessary to commence the work under the contract on the project. Is there someone who would like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Richard moves.
I got Marcia first. Richard, are you second?
I will second, sure.
Second by Richard. Is there discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Richard,
Yes.
Barry, Barry.
In favor.
That's a yes from Barry. Barbara,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Noreen,
Aye.
Brian,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Marcia,
Yes.
yes, and Caitlin Downey is yes. So with 10 in favor, unanimous vote, the motion passes at 7:12 p.m. So I believe that wraps up the motions that needed to be made at the moment. Is there public input?
No public input.
Excellent. If there's nothing else, is there a motion? Barbara, do you want?
Adjourn.
Barbara makes a motion to adjourn. Is there?
I second it.
Second by Mark. And I'm not doing a roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
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 So unanimous motion to adjourn at 7:13. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Turner Construction.
Thank you.
And our architect, Megan at Butler Rowland and Mays. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good rest of your night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.